This will be the video tutorial for section 3 of the Ruby Satchel bag. This is a very, very exciting section. We are going to completely assemble the exterior of your bag. What you're going to require are your 2D side pieces in your exterior. I'm just going to set them aside for now. You're also going to require your back wall with your pocket, your base piece that has a Decaville light already fused to it, and of course your front section right here. So what we want to do at the very beginning is we want to connect our base to our front and our back pieces. So what you want to do is you want to take your base piece and you want to place it right side down on top of the front piece or the back piece. It doesn't really matter. You want to make sure that your center marks are aligned and clip all the way down one side and then clip on the other side, just like this. Now you can go ahead and you can stitch these pieces separately, but I'm going to stitch them together when I go to the machine. So what you do need to do is you need to do your stitching at 1/2 of an inch. So you see that line you drew? That is your 1/2 an inch line. So you want to back stitch well down here, come all the way down till you get to the end and back stitch well as well. Now if you're using two different tones of fabric like I am right here, it's best to put your dark, so that's the top. I'm going to be stitching from this side in my machine. So I want to put a dark thread on the top and I want to put a light thread on the bottom so that it balances it out in that seam allowance. Now, what I will do, once my seam has been stitched, I will then go ahead and do some top stitching here. So I will top stitch 1/8 of an inch past that seam. But I'm going to apply this back portion to my lining, or my base, I should say, in the same way I did to the front, because I'm going to do everything at once at the machine. Once again, you can choose whichever way you want to do. You have to attach them eventually, but if you don't want to have a lot of items to work around right now, then I would suggest you do it separately. So basically, I have clipped my back to my lining, just like that, or sorry, to my base, and I have clipped my front to my base. Once that is completed, I am going to top stitch down that edge on my base piece. So I want to start at this end, back stitch, and come all the way down. I want to stay approximately 1/8 of an inch away from that seam. So I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to do all of this, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to add your side pieces, pattern piece D, and then we can continue getting this girl together. Ready to stitch my base to my front and back, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow that drawn line that I made on the base piece, because that's 1/2 an inch, and I'm going to stitch on having the base piece facing me, so basically the wrong side. I'm looking at the wrong side of the base piece. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just back stitch well here, and then I am going to continue all the way down using that drawn line as my guide. Now I want to make sure that my seam allowance is not too long, or my stitch length, so I'm moving it to about 3.5 inches, or 3.5 on my Texo at 2750. So it gives it a little bit longer, or a little bit shorter stitch length. Back stitch down here at the end and then lift up my pressure foot, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch the other side just like I did that side. So I'm going to pull my thread out and I'm going to again sew from my base. The wrong side of my base is looking at me, and I'm going to follow that 1/2 an inch drawn line, and I'm going to secure the base to the opposite side of my bag. So that might be the wrong side or the back side or the front side. I'm not exactly sure what I've got underneath me, but at least this will secure everything together. Now once again, you can do this separately if you wish, but I choose to do it together, so it makes it easier. Then I don't have to get up and down from my sewing machine. Okay, so I'm going to flip my piece so that you can see exactly what I did. Just like that, I have connected the front portion here and the back portion to my base. Now I do have my darker thread up inside, so what I'm now going to do is I'm going to tug on this section here, making sure that the seam from the front and the back are facing in, so you can see just like that. You need those pieces to be facing inward. So when I top stitch on my base piece, I'm going to make sure that I catch the portion of the front or the back. So I'll go ahead and I will do that stitching now at 1/8 of an inch from that seam. I am going to lengthen my stitch length to about 4.5 so that it looks nicer, and away we go. So as you can see, I'm back from the machine. I have connected my front and my back to my base, and I have gone ahead and completed the top stitching on the base side so it connects everything together. So that is the right side, and this is what it looks like on the wrong side, just like that. Now what we need to do is we need to add our side pieces to this, this body that we just did. So I'm going to flip this so that it is right side down, and I'm going to take my pattern piece D. So you have a pattern piece that goes up on a curve. This portion right here, the narrower one, is the bottom of your bag. So we're going to align the bottom of that base to the bottom of pattern piece D. We're going to align the center marks just like that, keeping everything nice and even along that edge. Going to place a clip down here at this end and a clip down here at this end. You're going to do the same on the other side, so I'll just swing that around. You're going to place the right sides together of the base and pattern piece D, just like this. Clip the center, clip the side, and clip the other side. Now we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to do our stitching. We want to connect just that lower portion of pattern piece D, which is your sides. You need to begin right at that seam line that you just finished. So this is a seam that connects your base to your body, and we need to start right there. So I'm just going to draw a little arrow like this, and we're going to finish at that same seam line, just like that. You want to place your needle in the down position, and you want to be 3/8 of an inch away from this side edge, not 1/2 inch, 3/8 of an inch. So once again, you have a line that you drew in the prep area that you can follow. You place the needle in the down position here, and you can backstitch if you wish. I'm probably going to pull my threads to the one side just so that I can secure them. You do not want to go past that stitch line. You want to start right at that stitch line and go right across that 3/8 seam allowance, connecting this pattern piece D to your base. You want to stop just on that seam or just a little bit shy of that seam. You're going to do the same thing on this other end. Now you want to make sure that these pattern pieces are out of the way, so I'm just going to kind of fold them a little bit in half like this, and I'm going to place a clip just on this to connect them so that they don't flop around on me when I am doing my stitching. So I'm going to go back to the sewing machine, and I'm going to have my wrong side of my base piece facing me to do my stitching. I want to utilize that line that I drew in the prep as a guide for stitching that piece together. So let's head over to the machine once again and do that stitching. So as you can see, I have stitched from this point to this point, and I have not snipped on my threads, but I will pull this, tug on this thread to bring it to the top, tie off those in a knot when I get back to the table. So I'll go ahead and do the other side now. Okay, I am back and I have connected the side pieces to my base, just as I had stated. From this seam to this seam, as you can see, I have pulled my threads to the inside and I have tied off quite a few knots. I've done that on both ends, as you can see. Now I have also taken a few minutes and I have punched my holes out for my feet. You can do this now, you can do that when you get one piece of up, but just make sure that you do it before you place both pieces together. Now, a little tip that I'm going to offer everyone when we go to place these pieces up, it really does help if you use some 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape here. Because that, if you place that tape down along that edge, when you go to attach the side, it holds it beautifully, and you only have to have a few clips. Now, before you add this tape, you need to do some snipping. So if you can see, I have gone ahead and I've snipped right beside that seam, right there. And I've gone in about 1/4 of an inch. My seam allowance is going to be 3/8 of an inch. And I've clipped for about an inch, so all the way along this little area, because there's a kind of a curve on this pattern piece right here, so you want to make it come around, equaling that. You do that only on the body side. You do not do it on the base side or on the side piece. So it's only this area right here. So you can see I've snipped along there. You do it on this side, as well as these two sides, making sure that you start just right beside that seam. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add double-sided tape, my 1/8 of an inch, from about this point right here, which is about the 1 inch mark. I'm going to place it along that edge all the way down on the right side of all 4 sides. So I'll go ahead and place that on there before I show you how to bring up the sides and attach to the front and the back. Now, once you've got your double-sided tape added, you can take a poly roller and you can just roll over that tape to make sure that it has a good connection to the right side or to the front and back of your bag. So I'm going to start with the back piece first, and I'm going to peel that paper off the double-sided tape, just like that. I'm going to align that 1 inch drawn line right here with this 1 inch drawn line on the front, just to kind of give me a guideline. I may have to turn this a bit to get this angled, and I place that so that they are aligned just like that. I am going to add a clip here just because I want to have it secured, but it is holding, as you can see, with the double-sided tape. So what you need to do is you need to take this side edge of the pattern piece D, and you need to get it so that it molds into place against that front or that back. Now you have snipped, so it should help, but I also kind of pull a little bit on this corner so it's down a bit, making sure that it's right into that corner. And I'm just going to now take and add the side piece to that back, just like that, squeezing it, see how well it fits. If you have extra here in through here, you may want to pull it back again and adjust this bottom area because it just means that you have a little bit more. Now, don't forget that this is on a bit of an angle, so there is a bit of a stretch to it, so you have to be aware of that. You may have to ease this into place. So that piece, that side is done, and I will just add a couple of little clips here just to secure it that much better. Now I can go to the sewing machine and I can stitch this, but I'm just going to do the other side as well, and I will stitch them both at the same time. So I'm going to peel the paper off, this double-sided tape, and 1/8 of an inch is the best to use because you will be keeping it out of your seam. So I'm just going to swing this around this way so I can work better from this side. Once again, I'm going to line up my 1-inch marks the best I can. And I'm just going to place a clip there. And once again, I'm going to tug on this bottom portion so that it's nice and straight down here. And I'm going to begin to work the side of my side pieces in so that they align beautifully. Now I have a little bit more on the back, which means I pulled too much. So I just pull that back, and then again, just place that against the back wall of this bag so that it's nice and even, just like that. Nice and smooth. Now I am only going to sew one side at a time because it is a lot easier to do. And I'm going to begin pretty much where that stitch line ended. So where you stopped, right there on that base piece. Remember, you stitched across here from seam to seam. So this is the point I want to begin at. So I like to stitch it from this side right here. So I make a nice curve. I can see it. So I'm going to have to pull my base away so I don't get any kind of pucker at all. So I'm just going to add a clip. Actually, I use a shorter one. Oops, that one's alive. A little clip there just to hold it in place. So I'm going to go to my sewing machine and I'm going to begin right in there. Right in that spot where that stitch ended. And I'm not going to backstitch again as well because I want to pull that thread to the inside and tie it off. I can get a better hold with it that way. The one thing you have to watch is if you're backstitching it all and you're kind of off, you can kind of dig into an area where you may be too far in. So I'm going to stitch this side and I'm also going to stitch this side. So I will now go to the sewing machine and I will do that stitching and we'll come back and I'll show you how to again apply the other side to your front piece and we'll get it secured in place as well. So as you can see, I have begun right into that corner, right in there, and I've stitched this 3/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way up to the top. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the other side. So you can notice I am starting at the top on this side so that I can get right into that corner area, making sure that I have pulled away that base, just like that, clipped it aside so that it's not going to get caught or create a pucker on that seam right on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop right into that little area, right in, I'll put a mark so that you can, I don't have a pen, so I guess I can't put a mark. So it's right there. It's right in that corner. So I'm going to go ahead and continue now. So I've stopped right there, right at that same point. Now I'm going to go back to the machine and I'm going to tie these lower threads off, or back to the table I should say, tie these lower threads off, and I will secure the other side to stitch it in place. Okay, I am back from stitching this side to my back wall. As you can see back in through here, I've pulled my threads to this side and I've tied them off really nice and tight. Now before I go ahead and I do the same to this side, I like to check my corners to make sure everything is nice and smooth and even. I'll check that corner and then I check this corner to make sure that it's nice and smooth just like that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing to the front and attach this side of our side panel to the front. Now, you're going to have a little bit more bulk in here. So what I would suggest you do is to take a rubber mallet and something hard underneath, and this may shake my camera, but it would be advisable to hammer that area a little bit, making it a little flatter to stitch. Same thing on the other side. That will just help a lot. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect my side piece on this side as well as on this side, and then I will go to the sewing machine and I will do my stitching just like I did on the back wall. Now I am starting my stitching at the top here. This is my pocket underneath, as you can see right under there. There's the piping. I'm kind of wanting to make sure that this piping is away from that seam. So I'm giving it a bit of a pull along there so that I can feel if it's cleared or not. So now I'll go ahead and continue sewing all the way down to the end. All connected. We have connected our side pieces to our front and back, just as you see here and here. I've tied off my threads down at the bottom corner. Now we need to add our foam on our sides as well as our back portion right there, and we need to add our base stabilizer in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that base stabilizer, I think, first. So what I have is my base stabilizer, which is basically bag stiffener, and it's very, very hard. And when you're adding feet to the bottom of your bag, it's best if you can add something that's very, very hard and stiff, and that way you won't see any kind of puckering or anything on your outside area where your feet are. So I'm just going to kind of prop this up just like this. And I'm going to show you that I have added some double-sided tape to the back of my bag stiffener. And I've gone right to that exterior edge, right over here. This piece is going to be placed down in here, just between that fold, that seam that you made. And I'm going to peel off staying up, I'm going to peel the paper off the double-sided tape. And I'm going to then apply the bag stiffener to this base area. So I want to make sure that this area right here, the side, is aligned with that stitch line or your drawn line, and you want to go all the way down till you get to the other end. I want to make sure I've lifted my seam up and that piece is underneath my seam if I have any extra. So I want to lift that up a little bit, make sure that it's tucked well and under there. That is key to making this a nice flat bag. Now I'm just going to turn this around and I'm going to reach in. And I'm just going to press on that. I'm actually going to take my poly roller so you can see inside the bag. I'm going to take the poly roller and I'm going to roll across that base, making sure that that bag stiffener is nice and secured before I turn this bag. So the next thing we have to do is we have to add our foam to the side. I'll just keep this to the side like this. You need to add it to the side panels. So this is my foam pieces. You're going to require your side DD foam, 2 of those, as well as CC, which is your back foam area right here. So I'm going to begin by putting my side foam on. So I'm just going to kind of flip that this way just for now. Just stand it up until I can show you exactly how I'm going to apply this. This pattern piece needs to be, this curve at the top needs to be aligned with the top curve like that of the line that you drew. And then the whole piece fits down perfectly into place along that area there. This gives your bag support on the side, but you want to start up here and make sure that this is applied first. So I'm just going to kind of lean this to the side. I'm going to peel the paper off just the top half, just a little bit, because I want to get it all nice and aligned with that curve. So I'm just going to fold that back, and you can see how very, very sticky this foam is. It's awesome. So I'm going to do the best I can for the camera here. I'm just going to place that corner right there and mold that top piece along that line, that drawn line right there. I just want to squeeze that together a little bit. Now I'll try to do it this way for you, and I'm going to go down a little bit. If you're off at all, you actually can just pick it up, pull it away and move it, but try not to do that more than once. And then I'm going to go down and peel that paper off. It's a little awkward to try to do this while I'm in front of the camera, but then you just lift this up, place it down so that it fits perfectly down the side. Now, if you have a little extra down here, that's okay. You can actually just trim it off if you want, but I do like to leave it. I want to make sure that it's nice and smooth. So I'm going to look at my inside, and if I have any bubble or pucker, then I know that I haven't got it aligned properly. So I'll just pull it back a little bit and then just smooth it back down in place to make sure I don't have any kind of bubbles or puckers. And now it actually fits a lot better than what it did. So right into those corners, just like that. Smooth that out. And I'm going to now take my poly roller. And I know you can't really see it, but I am going to roll along this side edge right here. So I'm just going to take the poly roller and smooth that out all the way in there to make sure that it's well bonded. I'm going to do the same on this piece over here. Sure it's well ruled and I have no bubbles or puckers in there at all. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this piece now. Pulling that paper off all the way down, just like I did the other side, making sure it's well bonded, and again feeling that in there to make sure that you're well secured. Poly roll that side as well. Check it as best you can, and then you need to apply CC, which is your back area right here, in the same way. So I'm going to peel off the top half where the curve is, just like that. Hold it back in place, and I'm going to begin. I usually start about 1/8 of an inch from that seam. It usually fits in within that seam. Don't secure it. Don't put pressure on it totally until I know it's nicely aligned, like that. And then I'm going to peel a little bit more off. I'm going to flip it to this side. I'm going to smooth that in place to make sure that that section is bonded. And then I'm going to peel the rest of the paper off and secure it in place just by using my hand at first. And then I will use my poly roller and I'll roll that to make sure it's well secured behind there. This is what gives you the body, the semi-structure to your bag. There's already foam on this side, so you do need some foam on the side. So you can see it's standing up right now. And what we need to do before we turn this bag is we need to fold down our top curved area to our drawn line right there, and we want to secure that in place before we turn it and add our feet on. The best way to do that is I'll use this size right here, and you can feel where that pocket is right there. You just want to place a snip on that pocket, and what you're going to do is either use double-sided tape. If you're using leather, you can glue it. Now, remember you had that 3/8 of an inch tape in there, so you'll have to make sure that you separate that away. In this case, it is the vinyl, so I don't have a problem stitching through double-sided tape, so I am going to apply double-sided tape. But if your machine does have a problem, then you may need to use some rubber cement to hold that down. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to snip here at each of these 4 corners right by the pocket, top of the pocket. I'm going to press open and glue those side seams open. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to apply a little bit of double-sided tape across the top. And I'm going to fold this top edge down so that it meets that 1-inch line right there all the way around the top. So I'll just continue doing this and show you pictures as I go so that you can understand exactly what we're doing. Okay, as you can see, my side seams are folded over, and I've gone ahead and I've added a 1/4 inch double-sided tape all the way around the top of my bag on the wrong side. Now I'm going to pull off some of that tape, and what you want to do is you want to take this top edge and you want to fold this down just like this and align that edge with your 1-inch drawn line, and you want to do that all the way around the top of your bag so that it's all completely finished off along that top edge and ready for your drop-in lining. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to completely do around this top edge, and then I'm going to show you how to turn your bag to the right side. Okay, I have completely folded over the top edge of my exterior, just like that, all the way around, and it's nice and smooth, and I've given it a nice firm press. What you can do at this point is you can use a poly roller and you can roll out that area before you turn your bag so you have a nice crisp edge. So what we need to do is we need to turn this bag. Before I do, I want to show you that the reason you trimmed away this area on the front pocket is so that it would minimize the bulk up in here. So if you're putting your handles on, you won't have a lot of thickness that you're going to be stitching through. Okay, we do need to put our feet on, and I will do that after I turn my bag. But if you feel you want to do that now, you can also do that by poking your hole using a pointed awl right through, putting in that hole and go right through this bag stiffener, and you can set those in place if you wish at this point. But I generally do that after I've turned my bag. So how do we turn our bag? I've got this upside down just like that. And what I do is I take my hand and I place it right at this corner right here. So I've got my 2 fingers into that corner. I'm pressing into this corner while my two fingers are inside pushing on either side. I just get that down to a certain point, and then I bring around my exterior. So I kind of bring this portion around like this. And then what I do is I continually roll this exterior around, and I press at the same time on my interior. So I'm rolling, I'm pressing and rolling. And that way you will have less bends on your bag stiffener. Come all the way around like this. Form it just like that. All the way down, pushing into the corners, just like that. And now you get to see how beautiful your bag looks. Check out your seams, check out your corners. You may need to push those corners out a little bit more, just like that. If you need to do a poly roller around that top again, go right ahead and do that as well. This is your bag. This is your tongue lock. So you can open that, check that out. See the lining underneath there, just like that. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my bag feet on the bottom. So I'm going to take my pointed awl and I'm going to place it into that hole that I made. And I'm going to put my hand inside to make sure I don't push that bag stiffener away from the base. And I'm going to make sure my fingers are out of the way, and I'm going to poke right through there. I'm then going to my feet in place, adding a little bit of Loctite into that area, that screw. I'm going to do all four, and then I'm going to take some tape and I'm going to place the tape on top of that screw so that the bag foot doesn't shift on me. And the final thing I'm going to do is add my interior foam just right onto that area like that to soften up the inside of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my bag feet, place the tape on and the foam, and I'll come back and show you exactly what this bag will look like before we set it aside. Okay, I have added my purse feet, as you can see down here on the bottom. I've covered them with some protective tape so that they don't get scratched. And you can see at this point how beautiful that base is and how secure it is, so that there's no wobbling or dipping in at your feet at all. So those are your purse feet. Now, if you are using some feet that are too long, you may need to put some washers in there. So I just take some bag stiffener and I create my own washers. In this case, these are Bringberries, and I had to put 2 washers in before I placed the screw in, because the screw was a little bit longer than what I needed and that foot just spun around. So I've gone ahead and added Loctite into the screws, as well as placed a piece of tape on top of each one so that it doesn't swing around at all. And then I've gone ahead and I've added a piece of foam, as you can see right here. It's a peel and stick foam, and I've placed that on the base of my bag. I like to have something very, very soft on the inside of my bag so that when I put something in there with my lining, I'm not hearing a clunk. It's not hard. It's got a nice, soft interior. So there you have it. We're all ready to do the next step, which is going to be our lining. That's going to be section number 4. But in the meantime, I am going to put some paper inside this bag, just like that, so that it holds its shape while I go ahead and do my lining. So I'm just placing that in there like that. And I'm going to set this bag aside just like this so that it holds its nice shape until I am ready to either drop my lining in and complete the bag. If I'm not going to use handles, that's where I'll be. But other than that, the next time I see this bag, I will be placing the handles in that position and dropping the lining in. So there you have it. That is your exterior of your ruby satchel. You've got your back pocket right there. You've got your front tongue lock pocket, or if you've used the magnetic snap, all the way down. It's just gorgeous. It's really, really a beautiful, beautiful pocket and lots of room. So now I'm going to set this aside and we're going to continue with section 4, which is going to be our interior lining.